Hey there, my name is Pravus and welcome to more Timberborn in Woodsyville. In the last video, we set up a very basic colony and built up our first couple of dams, one to control some of the power flow, and two to build up a safe reservoir for the oncoming droughts. Speaking of which, we have another one arriving in just a couple of short days. And we're going to need to have plenty of water stored up for that to work. Now, these droughts are going to be getting more and more dangerous as time goes on. So we can't really sit around here and just think, hey, you blocked up the water here, that means you're going to be fine. Eventually, as the droughts get long to 8, 10, 12, or more days, the water level in this river simply won't be enough and it will start to dry up. I'm going to have to be able to build out some very large dams upstream in order to control a lot of that water flow. To that extent, I'm thinking that we need to start building out a dam in this approximate area over here to start, build up a bit more of a water backflow here that we can control, making use of the floodgates in order to have a steady trickle of water traveling down over here, at least during any drought. And eventually, maybe in the long term, we'll be able to build up a very big dam in this choke point and turn this entire area into one giant floodplains. I mean, that's kind of what the beavers are good at, right? They're able to change up entire ecologies with their dams. Literally, entire ecosystems are dependent upon their dams. It's kind of fascinating stuff if you study the beavers. I like beavers, what can I say? Anyway, so that's something we're going to do. I would be tempted to go for like a mega dam right off the bat, but I'm kind of inclined to think that, one, we don't have the log production to make that worthwhile, and two, that's going to take so long, it's probably biting off a lot more than I can chew. Baby increments. That's how we are going to survive. By the way, let's go ahead and plant down a whole bunch of maple trees in this area since we can reach over here. I'd like to go ahead and start using that. Maple are the most effective as far as logs per day of growth time by a long shot. Chestnuts are okay, but mostly you want to use that in order to get some food. Pine and birch, meh. The only reason I've been planting so much pine down as of late is because, well, I would really like to have some faster sources of wood. It does take 30 days to grow a single maple tree, and I need sources in the meantime. So once we get our log production more or less figured out, I'll happily phase out these pine trees in favor of getting a lot of maple trees instead. Right now, though, that's not quite in the cards. By the way, something that I forgot and someone reminded me of, beavers can, of course, swim in this game. I am so used to playing games like Banish and such, where your citizens don't exactly travel around, but beavers are a partially aquatic mammal, so they are happy to do this. All we have to do is plant down some stairs, let's say right here, and boom, just like that, our beavers will be able to access this layer. They'll swim around and even build or plant things in the river. To that extent, something we could do then is go ahead and start placing down the spatterdock crops that I have been talking about. Now, I won't say that that's a very high priority for me right now because I'm pretty sure with the potatoes and carrots and stuff that I'm currently working on, we'll probably end up being fine on food, at least for a while. But in the long term, I may want to go ahead and have some farms all up and down this river, and our aquatic farmhouse will actually get some use. While we get some of these basic projects set up, I am setting up some kind of colony lumberjacks, I guess. Just something on the outskirts that can gather up easy sources of wood. One up over here. We'll place down some steps and make sure I can build something out over here. Anywhere to just get a little bit of extra logs, because that's really my big bottleneck right now. I can't do very much construction while I'm waiting on all of this. I do think we will also need to get ourselves another one of these lumber mills in the near-ish future, because we're probably going to need a lot. If I have anything to say about it, I'm pretty sure we're going to need a lot of planks, so setting up some more industry would probably be smart. What we could do is actually place down, I think, two lumber mills right over here, and then have a new network of power wheels, keeping both of these things operating, and that should work fine. Yeah, we'll go ahead and start building this out. This is more of a long-term project, though, so we'll go ahead and say that's a very low priority. I just know that we're going to end up needing lots and lots of planks in order to continue constructing all of my levees, in order to construct all my platforms, my water gates, etc., etc. All of that will be crucial. And then eventually, in our lumber segment right here, you can see we'll be able to start making things like gears, which will be crucial for the higher tiers of construction. And that takes planks as well. So we're going to be able to manufacture lots and lots of planks. That's going to be crucial for us at some point. Another forester placed down over here, so we can set down another crop of maples. Excellent. I'm just trying to think for the long term. Got to get these logs figured out, got to get a lot more food. By the way, we are currently roasting up a bunch of chestnuts that I have been gathering from these trees. These have been pretty nice for me, just as an extra influx of food. And as we wait for the next round of potatoes, then we can go ahead and start grilling those up and so on. Our food doesn't look great right now, but I think it's going to end up being a-okay. And by the way, the drought is about to start, like as of right now. So we have now 4 days of nasty, nasty drought. Let's keep in mind that we are also getting filled up on our housing as our population continues to grow due to the consistent water and food sources. Let's build out some more platforms and keep expanding this. You see why I called this an apartment complex earlier? This is why. I mean, literally, we're just going to have platforms that just kind of run along, and you just go up the stairs to the next level, and you can have like as many stories as you want, as long as you build this up appropriately. So this isn't exactly what I would consider high-quality housing. At some point, I'd love to go to things like, whoa, not this, the triple lodges and stuff, but for now, it will sure as heck work and let me keep growing that population to work more jobs and gather up more resources. I do wish there was some sort of a map mode where I could see what the current water levels look like at each of these different levels here. If there is, I don't know what it is. I can see here, for example, in this area, as we have been pumping out water, this area is starting to lower by quite a bit. Oh, and there it goes. All right. So this whole area just dried out. Now we can't produce any more water, but this should be enough to last me 0.6 days. The rest of this area upstream, though, looks fine. I don't see any evidence that the levels of water have really been going down at all. Do they go down if you're not pumping it actively? I don't know. Maybe. That's why I would like to have a map mode, or something, that would actually show me the current water level, just so I could check. It would make me feel better. Aside from the very obvious danger of running out of water and having all your crops dry up, the real thing that really hurts about a lot of these droughts, I think, is just the complete lack of power coming from water wheels, because I haven't been able to produce any planks for a good long while. Now, at some point, we'll have ways of getting around that, right? If we go down to power over here, because we are playing as our particular faction, we'll be able to get windmills, which can produce, potentially, a lot of power, although it's not always very consistent how often it's going to produce per day. Nonetheless, this will be a very good option for me, but in the meantime, yeah, we're very dependent on this water flowing. Speaking of which, here it comes. Now, this might be actually one area we're kind of having a giant floodplain, functioning like a giant water battery, kind of, I mean, for lack of a better word, and then using the floodgates in order to continue the flow during the drought might be a good way to go. Maybe. I don't really know for sure. We're starting to finally catch back up on logs over here. I think it's time to start building up the next level of dam. Let's get ourselves a simple floodgate here, and then I guess we can't quite afford the next level. I was thinking we want to get a double floodgate over here. We can just place it directly along this area, and I still think that that might be the way to go. But to that extent, what we'll do is build out probably some levees first, like this. Build it all like that, and then once we have enough science, we can get ourselves some double floodgates. That'll be nice and aligned with this, and the height that we can control will be in line with everything else over here. So nothing should flood as long as we don't close the floodgates. If we turn this into one big levee, this whole area would flood and all of my buildings would stop working. I think you need 4 or maybe 5. We're going to try 4 open areas, open segments in order to maintain this approximate discharge level of the water, I think. Again, a lot of this game is experimentation for me. I don't claim to know everything about this game, not even close. But I'm trying to learn, gosh dang it, and experimentation is the best way to do that. Since we have some beavers without any jobs, let's go ahead and turn back on this aquatic farmhouse. And I did plant down some of these crops, and you can see that sure enough, they're going around and actually getting some spatterdock seedlings planted down. So this will be another source of food, presumably a fairly high level of food. Grilled spatterdock would be a nice thing to get. Not a high priority per se, but it's a thing we'll be able to do. Cattails apparently can be eaten as well in a cracker form. What the heck would a cattail cracker taste like? That sounds absolutely revolting. Let's go ahead and spend our science and get this double floodgate set up. There we go. So this does take a chunk of planks, unfortunately, in order to build, but you can see this is the level we would be working with if I did do something like this. Okay, that does sound good. I think the higher priority right now is getting a couple more of these water wheels set up, and if they're set up in a good spot, I'm hoping they'll get plenty of water to flow through them and give them lots of power. At which point we'll use 2 of them in conjunction in order to actually power up both lumber mills simultaneously. With 2 lumber mills built up, then we should be able to greatly increase our plank production, which means we'll be able to actually build up the big stuff. Ah, crud. Only 3 days until the next drought arrives. All right. And to that extent, we're having still a lot of issues with our logs. We're really close to finishing up this dam. And right now I've set them all down to a 0 level to allow the water to flow as much as it normally would, but eventually we're going to go ahead and increase that height. I just figure we should probably wait to do that until we actually have, you know, everything actually built. For some reason, we have effectively no productivity on these lumber mills, and I'll be honest, I'm not too sure why that would be the case. We've got enough power, the efficiency's there, but apparently we're not producing anything. Is the issue that we just don't have any storage space? Oh, let's see, that might be it, actually. 200 there, oh yeah, okay. So the problem is we're now completely out of storage. All right. Well, I am building up another small warehouse over here for exactly this kind of reason. But yeah, admittedly, that is a little bit of a problem. We are going to be building this up as a high priority here as well. So what I think we also will do, on top of building this small warehouse, is I'll go ahead and place another farmhouse directly on top of it, taking advantage of all that space. Because if you haven't noticed, we've got a lot of potatoes kind of backed up here, and we're not harvesting them. Though now it occurs to me it may not be a labor issue, it may actually be purely a storage issue. We might want to devote some science to unlocking the larger warehouses, including the underground warehouse. That could be fun. Must be built on the ground. 4,000 capacity, wow. But you can see that it takes a new resource we so far have not been using. 20 logs, 80 planks, and 40 gears. Gears is a whole other workshop we're gonna need that takes planks and turns them into usable gears. That's important for the advanced structures. So we can't build that right now no matter what. It would probably be worth unlocking the large warehouse, though you can see it is also a little expensive. The alternative is to start placing down additional warehouses kind of like this, and maybe start stacking a bunch of them up, and with the clever use of stairs, maybe, just maybe, we would be able to still access all of these resources. Maybe. At least they only cost logs. I mean, to that extent, they seem like better options, but even with 3 of those stacked on top of each other, we'd only have 600 capacity as opposed to 1,000. So you know what? I think I've convinced myself the large warehouse is going to be the way to go. That does take up a lot of my science, but here it is, one big honkin' warehouse. Interesting structure to it, by the way. We'd be able to use it almost like stairs, getting up to higher platforms and stuff later if that's something I wanted to do. That's kind of interesting and weird, but all right, I'll go with it, yeah. Let's go ahead and place it approximately right here, I think. And I'm doing that in case I want to place some stairs along this way and maybe get access to the top in the future. I have no idea. Vertical planning isn't something I normally have to do in these types of games. So I'm not strictly sure what I'm doing exactly, but we're trying. I need 7 more logs. 7 more logs is all I need in order to be able to build up this next double floodgate, and we need that within the next 1.8 days for absolute sure. Need to have that. Okay, the floodgates are built up. Let's experiment with this height mechanic. So we're raising this up just a little bit like so. Okay, there we go, see? And now we've raised up that level. Now the water's gonna start building up, and then it has to continue to flow. So my question then is, if I increase this to, let's say, 1.5, how much does this really mess me up? Because the water should still be able to build up over here. A little bit? Maybe not. Okay. 2 is gonna completely close it off. Oh, no, never mind, it is building up. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So yeah, and now the water's going to start to flow. Just took a little bit of time for that to work. All right. So what we've done then is we have backed this river up a long ways over here, all the way to back in this waterfall area, I think. This water is going to stick around for a bit. So we've now got a pretty large battery of water to work with. Not to mention, this is a pretty deep section. If we ever find ourselves running out of water up top, and this is all we have left, I can always lower the floodgates, and that last little bit of life-giving water will continue to flow. So this should keep me going at least for a bit, I would think. Not to mention, opens up a lot more fertile ground I can work with, which sounds kind of exciting to me. I'm curious, if I did build a dam over here, you know, I think the water would actually flow all the way down this way and get me killed. I'm pretty sure it would actually eventually back up so much it would flood this entire area of the map. But at some point, we may want to build up some simple levees along this direction and build up another dam over here, and that will create massive amounts of water and flooding that I'll be able to use. By the way, I have no idea what this button represents. I don't see any problem with this inventor, and I know for a fact that people are able to get over here and do stuff, so I'm not I'm not sure what's going on with that, but alrighty, that's going to be fun. We are using up all of our planks building up this large warehouse. Now we just need an absolute ton of logs, and that requires, of course, that all these trees actually finish growing, which is going to take a very, very long time. And in the meantime, we have absolutely no storage left to work with, except, I guess we did just build up this small warehouse now, didn't we? So that's now a thing. Let's go ahead and prioritize building up this wooden stair, just so I can have an extra farmhouse working. Though, if I'm completely honest, I'm no longer convinced that it is necessary. Still got a handful of potatoes. Food-wise, we're looking great, and I've got a pretty good amount of water. Hey, we have our first round of spatterdock actually being harvested as well. Isn't that exciting? We could go ahead and start grilling some of that stuff up. How does that look as far as our population's well-being? Pretty good. You know, it might be nice to get myself another grill. And another grill can start getting me some additional food variety and just kind of keep this going so I don't have to micromanage it quite so much. You know what I mean? That could be kind of good for me. Let's make sure we place a path here so I don't forget, and there we go. Boom. Now, the only problem is I still see that we don't really have much water flowing at all. We could change that, though, if I reduce this down to, let's say, 1. Or is that going to cause problems? No, let's just try it. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna reduce this down to 1, get that water flowing again. Now, this water height isn't going to last for very long is the only problem. So it's flowing, and what we're doing is creating ourselves some power again, but it's kind of only sporadic, and we've reduced the water level down here a fair bit. So it doesn't sustain the water wheels for very long. Yeah, that's not going to be a very good long-term solution. We're really going to need to unlock some of these windmills, which you can see I can do. It takes 120 science and does take some planks and stuff. Yeah, maybe it's worth doing this now. Let's go ahead and unlock a windmill. It's relatively small, interestingly enough. Okay, so hold the phone. If I were to get rid of this power shaft and replace it with a 4-way power shaft, and then get rid of a very small amount of my potatoes in this approximate area, we'd be able to place down a windmill, and it wouldn't be enough to keep this area going at all times, but it will give me a little horsepower during the day when the water's stuck and just keep these things going. That said, productivity actually has improved a little bit. Yeah, the only reason it was down to 0 is because we had no storage left. Now we've got that going, everything seems to be working exactly as intended. Excellent, so that's all a thing. We are currently chopping down a load of trees up in this area. Yes, I did build up a bunch of stairs over here. Sue me, it just seemed like that was the right thing to do. Again, with the logs, though, we go through so many dang logs. I'm kind of halfway tempted to say what we should be doing is just plant down a load more maple trees over here. We can always get rid of this later, am I right? But we should probably just go ahead and plant down a ton more trees. It certainly seems like we're gonna need it, dang it. Okay, we can see a whole nother area just dried out. So yeah, you definitely lose some water level from pumping this out. I mean, it has to be the case. It just would make sense. So I'm very, very, very curious to know how much it drains. Let's see, 0.33 per hour. That's how much water we get, though. Yeah, I have no idea how to tell how much it affects the water level. And that, of course, would be tricky to calculate because depending on the area that's being, you know, filled up with water, that depends, that kind of is going to change the volume, right? And the volume is going to decrease at a lower rate the larger it is, at least as far as water level is concerned. So, I don't know. Maybe asking for a actual water level map mode is a little bit too much to ask, but it would be nice. It would be nice in order to do some real min-max playthroughs, but in the meantime, the good news is by having a secondary, or I guess in this case, tertiary water pump set up over here, this level does go down, and that obviously could be a problem for things like my spatterdock and everything else. I needed this to go down at a very slow rate, but again, there's so much more volume set up over here than there was in this area. I imagine it will take a fair bit longer. And worse come to worse, this is why we have the floodgates. Yes, by the way, I'm setting up a whole new maple crop over here. I'm just tired of not having enough logs to work with. This is the bottleneck that keeps messing me up. I felt like it was going to end up being things like science, then I was worried it was going to be water with the droughts, and that's obviously a concern, but you can get around a lot of that as long as you have a consistent stream of logs, and I just have not had enough at this point. So I know this is a lot of farms. I'm hoping at some point I can trash a lot of these, create a more urban area in the middle of the map, and be a little bit more efficient and more aesthetically pleasing, I would say, with some of the placement of all of these trees, but it's gonna be a little while before that's going to be an option. Sure enough, by the way, all this area just dried out as well, except for a little water over here, interestingly enough. Where'd this come from? Was this here before? Or did I accidentally create enough of a backlog that it's, like, slightly flooded this area? That is interesting. And why did this area still lose all of its water level? Why is the water level still going down here? Nothing's pumping this area out, and nothing's flowing. That would imply that at least some of the water is always seeping into the earth, which again makes physical sense. I cannot really complain about that. It's just interesting. By the way, we're completely out of planks, hence why I'm not able to get the windmill built up to get more, well, planks. Ugh, that's unfortunate. Okay, plank production is up and running again, thank God. Let's take a look at this. So we did just build out a windmill, and right now it's producing a good consistent 100 horsepower. So we are grossly overproducing for this particular area. I'm actually tempted to trample down at least a few more of these potato crops in exchange for some more of the lumber mills. That could be good. Another thing I'm going to do is place down a windmill over here, which may seem a little bit weird, but I do know that these inventor huts actually do take advantage of power as well. So if we can produce a pretty hefty amount, that would be good. And I think, pretty sure anyway, that connected buildings, adjacent buildings, can share power with each other. So one windmill might be enough in order to keep both of these things going. Let's go ahead and prioritize quickly placing a simple straight power shaft over here. And by the way, you can't place windmills right next to other buildings or trees, which makes sense because then they would impede on its ability to get the wind, right? So there we go. And now, it looks like we are producing a lot of power, but none of it's being demanded. Okay, I am wrong. Apparently inventors don't need this at all, and I feel like an idiot. Well, that was unnecessary, but it looks cool, you gotta admit, right? Ugh, boy. All right, well, you can mock me in the comment section down there if you so desire. By the way, something I was realizing is I was thinking, hey, I'm running out of space in this area, but I am being way too limited. What I literally could do is just place a whole bunch of platforms over here, and then just go ahead and place another grill right over here and expand out the paths once those platforms are built. And then boom, we've got two grills next to each other with storage directly underneath them, so there's very little travel time. I can just build vertically, and people can walk underneath these platforms and stuff. I don't know, this verticality is actually really, really cool. It's something I don't think I fully appreciated until like just this moment. But now I actually think it's pretty rad. I'm looking forward to doing more with that. Another thing we can do is start unlocking a few little benches or shrubs or other little aesthetics here and there, which does meet some needs. For example, let's go ahead and spend 20 science points doing this. The only problem is a shrub takes a whopping 12 logs, which is just nonsense, in my opinion. But whatever, we could place a couple of them. Heck, I don't see any evidence that they need to have things like sunlight. So what if, down over here, I real quick just deleted at least a couple of these paths that are not being used for pretty much anything. And then I could place a couple of shrubs over here, and then while people slept, this would give them a little bit of happiness, right? Maybe. On the other hand, of course, now you can't build platforms over it, so it might actually impede my ability to continue placing downstairs, so we probably shouldn't do this, but you get the idea. I think that you're going to need these in order to build up some happiness. Aesthetics, there it is. Yeah, make a lot of people go buy shrubs and stuff, and there you go. I don't think the shrubs have to be next to their houses per se to get the benefit, but I think it does technically help. But, I don't know, maybe simply having them walk by the shrubs is enough for that to make a difference. So, for example, I'll go ahead and close some of this out. And then we'll start gradually adding shrubs in here. And we'll keep an eye on the needs of the beavers, but if we place it along the main highways and they walk by a shrub or two per day, then maybe that'll end up being enough in order to boost up their aesthetics needs, and we'll have one more population well-being metric being met. That could be kind of cool for me. All right, well, I think I'm going to end this video here. With the jump cuts, it's hard to tell if this is going to end up being a short video or not, but we're definitely making some progress on the dams. We've been able to survive these droughts without too much issue. I'm starting to get on top of all of the logs. Bit by little bit, we're getting there. Some of these maples are finally starting to come up to fruition. It's taken a while to get to this point, but we are almost there, and very soon we will be able to harvest a load more lumber. And once I got plenty of lumber to work with, Then I can start expanding the housing out even further. Then I can start going for more aggressive damming of the river because we're beavers and that's what I like to do. Then we can go for more aggressive research and so on. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, I would ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time in Timberborn.